Hi, everybody. This is Danielle Mendich, certified career coach with Inner Compass Coach. I have a practice here in Washington, D.C., as well as Denver, Colorado. I work with mid-career professionals to help them change their direction. And I'm talking today with Benny Levy. He has a business called Insured with Benny. He focuses on home, auto, life, and health insurance. He also works as an executive director at a local synagogue in Denver, Colorado. I'm excited to be talking with Benny today. He's one of my former clients, and we've been staying in touch over the last few years since we worked together. And I wanted to just ask him questions so that he can provide insights about his experience changing careers, so that he can share some of his best tips with you if you're looking to make a shift in your direction. So, Benny, I'd love to start this interview just sharing about yourself, your background, what you were doing before, and now what you're doing now.
Yeah, so hi Danielle. It's great to have this opportunity to talk and help future people who are looking at career change. About myself, so I have been in nonprofit education for 18 years since my early 20s. And at some point, it got to a point that I realized that a career change is needed. After 18 years in the field, I made it to the top that I could at that point in Denver. And it's been an exciting journey working for Jewish nonprofit. But then I decided, well, okay, now it's time to change. But what do I change to? And that's how we started talking, and how this program and your coaching entered my life. And it really got me thinking, got me questioning my direction, questioning my future direction, my future goals. And then I decided at some point that I needed to stay true to myself. And then that led me to opening my own small business and helping others, which was my only main call that led me to it. It wasn't an easy transition, but I did it. So I'm happy to share.
Sure. I mean, this leads me to a really good question about, so what was the biggest factor that led you to starting your business? Because I know that you really wanted to help others, and that was a big piece behind your change. So could you share more about that? What was the biggest factor behind that?
In starting my own business?
Yeah. And wanting to support others.
Well, supporting others has always been a major core value, my own core behavior. That's basically one of the main essence of who I am as a person. And in terms of starting my own business, I realized that I wanted to be working for myself and me setting the tone of what I want to do and who I want to help and what kind of clientele I want to help, as opposed to being set within the box frame of an organization per se, or for nonprofit in general, that are always restricted in terms of budget, in terms of philosophy, in terms of ideology, but they're very strict. And I often found myself really limited in that structure. Whereas I realized that if I work for myself, then the reason, well, for the good and for the bad, there's a structure. So I kind of still trying to figure who I'm going to serve and who help, but there's a lot more opportunity for me in this area.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And, it's interesting because one of my questions I always ask you is, how are you finding meaning in your new career, your business? But interestingly, you also shared something interesting, which is that box that you wanted to get out of. And to me, there's an interconnection between that question I was going to ask you and what you shared. So I'm going to ask it, how are you finding meaning in your new position?
So in both in different directions, the both are kind of based on the same idea of me helping people. So both as executive director, that is still in the nonprofit world. As a synagogue executive director, I still get to help a lot of people and support on a different level with membership people who join the synagogue. But even as an insurance agent working for myself, that is much more open.
Mhm.
I'm not limited to people from a certain religion, race, or whatever. Anyone who is basically looking for insurance because of whatever need, this is a great opportunity for me to help educate. It's like what people are looking for is not necessarily what people need. So that's a great opportunity for me to find meaning by helping people, by teaching people what insurance is, how it works, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because you came back from a background of education and now you're using it in a completely different way.
Right. So I can tell, right. So my entire background is in education as a teacher, as a counselor, as a director in previous world war. But now I'm using those skills of interacting with people, in connecting with people in a completely different area of insurance. It's like teaching people what they should be looking at, what they should be in terms of protecting themselves, protecting their families, protecting how that works. And most people, you'd be surprised to know, don't actually know anything about insurance. So having that background really is meaningful for me to help teach people.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because you're using all those skills that you've developed over the years, but you've repositioned them in a very different way.
Right, absolutely. And that's really meaningful and important right now for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing I thought that was really interesting too is a lot of times when people start a business, they're really afraid about making that leap. But it's interesting because you're still working part time as an executive director, kind of having that stability, but then pursuing this business as well. So you're kind of making both worlds work for you. I think it's important for people to think outside the box of how they can make it happen. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for the transition time when the position that my previous job position kind of ended, I was kind of lost because there were bills to be paid and no income. Luckily enough, our family situation was able for me to take time off and really evaluate how I'm going to move forward. And it took a while to realize that I needed to work for myself and not for a company in terms of time frame, in terms of scheduling, in terms of kids benefit, like kids needs and stuff like that. So I really, after a while, it was like, okay, I can now work a full-time job, 40 hours a week. That's just not realistic with the pay benefits were less than what it would cost us for daycare and school and everything. So we realized very fast that that's not going to be sustainable. So
Mm-hmm.
then I was looking, okay, so the only way that's going to work is if I have control of my own schedule and and ultimately the income that comes with it. So I knew that I had to go in the direction of being self-employed. I had no idea what at that point, but I knew that needed to happen. And then I started doing that in the field of real estate and insurance. Soon enough, realized that real estate wasn't for me. So I focused on insurance, and then I realized that I needed to focus on different areas of insurance. Uh, and basically every day for 6 months, I was trying to figure out, okay, what's my next step? What's my next step? What's my next step? And then eventually I realized, okay, it's going to take time to build a business until I see income, until I see a good clientele basis of it's going to take a couple of years probably. It's not going to happen overnight. And I realized that fast. But then I was back to the concern of, okay, what's going to happen with bills? They need to be paid. So then I literally had this vision that I'm going to find a part-time job somewhere that's going to pay enough money for the bill side, yet while I build the business as my future career, my future idea. And then for a couple of weeks, I was actively looking for part-time jobs, office jobs, stuff like that, and nothing was going anywhere. And then this director job just literally landed. So I guess when you start looking for something or when you want something, the universe suddenly sends something to you. I mean, that's the best way to kind of describe this. What happened to me is that this happened just by chance.
Yeah.
Upside.
Well, and it's interesting because I have two questions for you, but I'll ask the first one. What did you find was most helpful when you were doing this job search? Because I do believe that it's kind of twofold. Yes, you have to put yourself out there, but it's an energetic thing as well. So, what did you find to be most helpful during your job search and landing this position? The exact.
So I think, right. So I think the best thing I've done, looking back over the last 18 to 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, is just talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
Really talking to people, we're building connections, but not necessarily going to someone and saying, I'm looking for a job. Can do you have a job? But literally just talking to people, realizing what field they're in and seeing and trying to figure out what's passionate about in that specific field for them and seeing if that area is something that you want to do. So I've spoken to people in the real estate industry.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of areas that agents told me were really interesting to me too, which kind of led me in that direction for a while. But then I realized that it wasn't for me because the other areas were not appealing to me. But the only way I could find it out is that I literally shadowed 2 or 3 agents for a day each and saw what they were doing. And I was like I basically what I refer to as an agent for a day, kind of. I literally just shadowed someone, and I realized very soon that although I love parts of it, I could not deal with other parts. So then I knew, okay, so I have this briefcase with those areas I like, and okay, so how do I take that and find a job that has this, and maybe add other areas that I like. So then I went into warehousing logistics for a time period. I lasted there 2 weeks.
Hmm.
I knew that was not for me because the pressure, because the time frame, because of all of those skills that I had, just they were not lining up to me.
Hmm.
If I'm going to do this for the next 20 years, I better find something that I want to do, not something that's going to 5 years down the line be like, okay, I need a new career path.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, so best tip is talk to people, see what's out there, ideas, try and figure out what's appealing to you individually, and then build off that to what the future will bring.
Yeah, thank you, Benny, for sharing. You're sharing kind of three concepts that I like to talk to clients about, and the first one is testing before investing.
Right.
And like I say, when you make a change, as you said, when you start something and you end up investing a lot of time and energy, if it doesn't really connect with you, what in alignment with your skills, with your desires, it's not going to be a good fit long run. You may be able to
Right.
do it temporarily, but over you won't have longevity in it. So I think you nailed that piece. But you also did something called informational interviewing, which is the other concept I teach in my classes, which is talking to people and getting information about their careers. And I think that's incredible. And then the third thing is the job shadowing, spending a day or 2 or 3 with people who are on it, because there's no better way than to experience what does the day-to-day look like.
Right,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so I think that's incredible that you did all three of those things. So what at the end did you find most helpful for you in determining your career direction?
So I think what's really important is finding a good mentor
Mm,
or coach or whatever works individually for people. And I think the ability to have an open conversation and trust with 1 or 2 or 3 or as many as people want. But for me, it was 1 or 2 people that I felt really close to and really trust with, that I was able to really express everything and just get honest feedback
mm,
without, and just building a communication skill with someone who is not a part of it necessarily, who doesn't have a personal agenda by being as an income or whatever,
yeah.
but really someone who's a third party, not connected to the situation, but can give you honest feedback and some kind of guidance, some sort of ideas or thoughts that they may have that may or may not impact the way that you act upon.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And how did you end up, I mean, what did you do to find that mentor?
So for me, it was I actually have a couple of different mentors right now because different stages of the last 18 months, I needed different people for different things.
Hmm.
So I mean, we spoke at the beginning of the process. like 2 years ago. So that was the beginning.
Yeah.
So since then, I've had like probably a handful of different mentors for different stages.
Yeah.
Uh, One of them was literally my down the street neighbor that threw the idea at me of insurance.
Hmm.
And and then at the time, I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. I don't want to sell people insurance packages or whatever. It's all about sales. And she was like, just think about it. Like she said to me something very smart. She said to me, I'm not trying to get you into this or anything, but I just want you to think about it. And then if it's something you want to talk about, we can talk about it. 3 months later, I went back to her saying, I'm interested.
Hmm.
How do I start?
So she planted a seed for you.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's the blessings of mentors, throughout every part of the process is, little nuggets will come and stick, and then it's a matter of how they come into fruition down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So and then later on, I had a different couple. I had a different mentor that was more about changing me,
Mhm.
changing my thoughts in order to be successful, in order to actually start a business, in order to start, direction or kind of be successful in it, is also to basically just I apologize.
That's
I,
okay. Love
uh,
little ones.
yep. So that mentor was all about reading, improving myself, building a lot of skill sets, being more communication skills, and more of a skills side, like improving my skills in order, not just in business, but in general, as
Mhm.
a person, in connecting to people and stuff like that. So that was that mentor's job as well.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious, when you worked with me doing our work together, what did you find most helpful in that?
So working with you gave me the foundation. I mean, I was at that point, I was completely lost. I
Hmm.
was completely not necessarily unwilling to learn, just not being able to be open enough to learn,
Hmm.
or be open enough to accept that change needs to happen.
Hmm.
And maybe at that point of time, I was scared of change.
Yeah.
Or maybe at that point of time, I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on in my own life, like ending that position and ending that basically career path, uh, and not knowing. I mean, the fear of not knowing what you're going to be doing tomorrow is a huge fear. And I think it took me a long time and day-to-day steps and exercises and training and my own mindfulness awareness to it, to be able to say that I need to change. It's okay. Change is good,
Yeah.
and really accept that and kind of embrace it. So working with you was like the opening.
Hmm.
And I like one of the things that I learned by coaching with you, for example, for me individually, was the fact that my core value, my core essence is helping people, which stayed with me. I didn't realize back then that's what I got to, that was a conclusion. It took me a while after to get back to it. And it took me a while to realize how I got to it, and to realize that was actually a core. That's not something that I say just because people want to hear it. That's actually who I am. That's really at the bottom, at the essence of me. And
Yeah.
that's something that I learned with coaching with you, is that getting to that real bottom,
Hmm.
which wasn't, maybe I kind of thought about it over the years, but it's only when I did this I realized, this is when I actually realized that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
That's something in the process with coaching with you kind of revealed to myself, although I could not have told you that then. Now I can.
That's Thanks for sharing that. I always say who we are to our core never changes. We just often get away from it and then we have to come back.
Right.
And it sounds like to me, your journey, you had to kind of get away from it, even kind of as you shared, doing that transportation and logistics. oh no, this is not what I want, to come back to it.
Right.
I think that's actually part of the journey, and a lot of people judge that part of the journey, but I actually think it's really essential. It's just a matter of when it happens, whether it's before working with a coach with me, like you've gone away to your core, or maybe you work with me, come back away from it, and then come back. I think that's part of just being human.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, it took like 18 months, 2 years to realize that. But I think that's very important to realize that just because for me, at least, when I did the coaching, each session was kind of maybe overwhelming, if I want to say that. And it's very powerful, but the impacts of it come over time. It's not something that I at least didn't get the day after I finished or the day after each session ended. It's
Yeah.
really after I processed it and after I was able to move on that I could go back and say, okay, now that piece connects to this piece and now it makes sense or stuff like that. So it's really a long time journey and not just 6 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever the coaching program is these days.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that openness and vulnerability. You know, part of the reason why I started these videos is I've been really wanting to do a lot more celebration of successes. And part of my successes as a coach is celebrating the successes as my clients. And that was the inspiration behind starting these videos. So I'd love to end this one with asking you, have you done anything recently to celebrate all these successes, you know, this business, this executive director role? Like, what have you been doing, and can you share more about that?
So as I mentioned, the executive director is really new.
Yeah.
Started. It was completely unexpected. I did not expect this to happen. I didn't even apply for this. It just kind of happened, which is a good thing and really exciting. It's really, really exciting. I'm really excited about it. So that's really kind of a success because that was the missing part in my big puzzle of putting things together. So that I'm very excited and happy about it. I mean, I'm really happy about this position. And in terms of other successes, I'm functional. I'm a small business owner that a year ago didn't exist. So it's it's really exciting to be able to be in a position that I can help people that now need, if it's home insurance, car insurance, life insurance, health insurance. And it's stuff that people need, yet people don't realize where to start getting it. People just take it for granted, and then people get stuck without it. So it's really exciting to be in a position that I can help people now and actually see results of it.
I love it. Well, Benny, can you give us your website URL? Where should people connect with you, and how should they connect with you?
So my website is www.insuredwithbenny.com. And then,
Remember.
yep, easy to remember, insuredwithbenny.com. You can sign up for my newsletter that goes out twice a month. It's very not detailed specifically per state. It's open. A lot of information in the insurance world, home, auto, basically. But sometimes I will add in life and health insurance stuff too. Things are changing in the world, and it's always great to be. And if people are looking for my personal assistance in quotes or whatever, they can also contact me through the website. There's a contact form there. I'll be happy to help as needed.
Oh, thank you, Benny. Thank you, Benny. And once again, I'm Danielle Mendich, certified career coach with Inner Compass Coach. And I can be found at innercompasscoach.com, INNERCOMPASSCOACH.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much, Benny. It's so great to catch up with you. And thanks for all your advice.
Thank you.